San Diego is in the middle of one of the biggest health crises in recent memory because of hepatitis A. So far, 461 people have been sickened, and 17 have died. The latest one was earlier this week. For Consuelo Gomez, the symptoms of the disease started in late July. She told the Union-Tribune that she had ongoing fatigue, nausea, and diarrhea. She dropped from around 110 pounds to 98 in less than 2 weeks. She barely made it on the Orange Line trolley to Sharp Grossmont Hospital, where she nearly died. She was given her last rites, but managed to recover. Gomez's story is that of many of San Diego's homeless people, and now the city is ramping up action to stop the outbreak, although homeless advocates argue that the response is way too late. I'm Daniel Wheaton, and you're listening to Refocus.
This is our afternoon update at the city's coordination center, where we bring together all the components of our three-pronged attack: vaccination, sanitation, and education, updating on all the milestones that we're working on, taking a look ahead, and really making sure that the communication and the coordination among all city departments is front and center.
Political finger-pointing reached fever pitch this week as both the city and county blamed each other for the outbreak. Emails obtained from a public records request show that the city refused to install portable toilets and sinks earlier this year, which would have prevented the spread of hepatitis A. The disease is spread through feces, and proper sanitation is usually enough to stop it from spreading. Even posters to promote vaccinations took months. They were first discussed in June and weren't put up until August. Members of the city council have used the political moment to renew a push for affordable housing developments, a never-ending debate in the city that has ties to the homeless crisis. It only takes looking in unexpected places to see the realities of what homelessness has done to the city. On Monday, firefighters battling a blaze in Spring Valley may have contracted the virus because they stumbled on a homeless camp. One firefighter stepped in a 5-gallon bucket filled with human feces. They were all later vaccinated. The slow-moving political wheels haven't prevented some San Diegans to do something themselves. The waterman, David Ross, has told the city multiple times that the city was failing to provide restrooms to the homeless. He explains the problem.
Am I surprised that this epidemic of Hep A has happened? No. What I'm surprised about is that it hasn't happened before. This whole area is disease-ridden, and it was allowed to languish in this way for years and years and years and grow. Now, why is somebody afraid to acknowledge that it was a formula for an outbreak of something? Now we're all going, oh my God, how'd this happen? What do you mean how it happened? Because you didn't do anything to keep it from happening.
For now, the strategy appears to be evictions for the area's homeless. Hundreds of homeless people were pushed out of the East Village. Here's Bob McElroy of the Alpha Project explaining.
You know, when there wasn't a place for people to go, like all the shelters are full, all the transitional beds are full. It's called community policing, and when you have high concentration of folks that are just trying to survive, don't have access to all the things that we take for granted, toilets, showers, and things, this is what happens. And so we move them from block, I call it herding. We herd people from one block to another, we chase them around. So I'm thinking we're getting really close. We've been working 24/7 for the last 10 days to really get these facilities opened up. So at least those folks who are homeless right now will have a choice. Do I want to continue on the streets, or do I want to get help? And we're hoping that everybody wants to get help.
This allows the city to continue its ongoing street cleaning, which can remove the virus. Several uptown neighborhoods are now being cleaned as well, including Pacific Beach and Midway. Still, there are worries that the vaccine could run out. Vaccine manufacturer Merck & Company released a statement warning that the company could, quote, anticipate working through some manufacturing constraints in 2017 as a result of the unexpected demand for the hepatitis A vaccine. Both Merck and GSK declined to tell the Union-Tribune how many vaccines were in stock. In June, the World Health Organization bulletin warned that there wasn't enough hepatitis A vaccines for the world, citing the unusual increase in infections in several countries, including the U.S. Still, not all homeless people are willing to get the inoculation.
If it does kill me, it kills me. You know, nothing I can do about that. But I found taking these vaccines and stuff, I have a tendency of catching whatever they just give me the vaccine for.
Additionally, health officials are worried that the outbreak could spread to San Diego's LGBT population, as similar outbreaks have affected gay men in the past. We'll be right back. It was perhaps the biggest promise of his presidential campaign, a big, beautiful wall on the U.S.-Mexico border. Now, political rhetoric is becoming reality as contractors begin construction for prototypes for border walls in far south San Diego and Otay Mesa. As President Donald Trump's presidency is rife with unfulfilled promises, this is one of the few tangible examples of Trump's promises. We have Enterprise reporter Greg Moran in the studio to discuss how the border wall construction is going. Greg, welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
First, walk us through how we got here. Explain the process of how these contractors were selected to build these prototypes.
Right. Last March, the Department of Homeland Security and Customs and Border Protection put out a request for proposal. It was sort of a call to anybody in the country, any contractor, designer in the country, to come up with a proposal for the big, beautiful wall.
Mm-hmm.
And they got a good number of responses, over 400, I think. Companies responded in some way, some more seriously than others. And in late August, at the end of August, the CBP announced the winners of the contract to build the concrete walls made out of concrete. And then they also, a week later, announced winners in a design competition to build a wall out of other materials. So it turns out that we're going to have 8 walls, but there are actually 6 companies because 2 companies got a contract to build one each type of wall. So it was kind of an unusual way to do federal contracting and a federal project. It was there was sort of a entrepreneurial competitive thing. There was kind of a game show aspect of it, is that we'll take the 8 finalists and we'll have a wall off or something like that, which is what's
kind of how things are today, though.
Yeah, very much so. And then they came out here just on Tuesday and started work.
Yeah. So, what are some of the expectations of these wall prototypes?
Some are expectations that they have to meet. Requirements in the contract include things like they have to be 30 feet long. They have to be between a minimum of 18 feet tall or high, and 30 feet. They have to go down into the ground at least 6 feet. They have to be tamper resistant for, I think, at least an hour. In other words, you can't drill or pick at them or blowtorch them it would take you at least an hour to get through. And they cannot be climbed. They have to be insurmountable. Those are sort of some of the technical specifications. They're in the contract. All 8 of these are going to have to meet those. And then there are some kind of more subjective or loose language. They'll be judged on aesthetic considerations, how they look. And I think a big part of this is going to be either the practicality or the efficacy of this particular design. I mean, can we pick this up and move it anywhere in the southwest border and begin building it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the construction zone is relatively close to us in San Diego. Why don't you describe the area of where they're building?
It's a really interesting part of the county. So if you go almost as far south as you can and go left, go east, out to Otay Mesa and past the Otay Mesa port of entry, the farther east of the 2 ports of entry in San Diego, and then go a little bit farther east from that, it's an area of the developed area is an area of business parks and warehouses and trucking companies mostly and things like that, because Otay Mesa is a truck crossing port of entry. And then there is a large expanse of open and undeveloped mesa to the east of that that abuts the Otay Mesa Wilderness Area. Mm-hmm. And it is in that open area, right next to the existing wall. There is a small piece of what I was looking at maps today, which I'm pretty sure is U.S. government-owned property, that is maybe a couple hundred, well, I'm not good with distances, a few hundred feet north of the what I call the landing mat wall, the original wall, the old wall, kind of underneath the power tower, next to an SDG&E natural gas installation, and that's where the actual build is going. but it's really surrounded by just enormous open space, really last big chunk of open developable property out there.
Yeah. It is kind of interesting where they're building this. I can imagine years from now it could be kind of like a little like Trump land of like, this is what happened.
This is a great question, is that what happens after they build them? They've got 30 days to build these, 30 work days, so Monday through Friday. And then they're going to be there, and then CBP is going to run kind of a testing period of time, 30 to 60 days, that they're going to look at them. They're going to make sure they meet all the specs. They're probably going to see if they like them or not, probably do a few other things. And then they're supposed to pick a winner or winners. It could be more than one wall. But then after that, what happens to them? It's a 30-foot concrete wall with a 6-foot.
Yeah, what are you going to do with that?
I mean, it's not going very far. So I think that, and I'm pretty sure, I mean, I suppose I could knock them down. The other walls built of other material, maybe they're more easily disassembled. But I think you're going to have a stretch of concrete wall that's going to be there. They're not going to be contiguous because, they're not working exactly side by side to each other. And I was talking to a couple of people from CBP who can't say officially, but they're pretty sure that they're just going to remain there.
Yeah.
And you're right. I think at some point those are going to be kind of a public art sort of exhibition place. And if indeed, as the expectation now is that this dream or something of Trump's to build the big beautiful wall across the entire southwest border does not come to fruition, because there is not a lot of support in Congress to fund it. There's a lot of opposition in the public to build it, although there is a lot of support. If he never achieves that, these will be sort of a real tangible artifact of the first months and maybe the first years of the Trump administration.
Mm-hmm. And also, the UT prepared for this announcement thinking that there would be huge protests, as there have been about nearly everything this year. But it was actually surprisingly quiet. Why do you think that's the case?
I don't know. I know what I know and what I've been told, which was, sort of back. I mean, you're right. Our expectation was that there would be protests. Certainly, to my mind, both the local and the federal law enforcement believe there would be, given the amount of security steps that they took, which we reported on. There's no parking along all the streets there. There are miles of chain link fence that are put up on the mesa. Now, these are ostensibly, not ostensibly, but these are put up in part to kind of protect the private property out there. This large expanse of mesa is really a kind of a patchwork of public land and privately owned land. And the county has decided, in consultation with the federal people and I think the private landowners, that they wanted to fence off a lot of this. But it had the additional effect of really blocking access to the mesa. There's really only one way in, and that is secured and blocked off. So, there was a huge expectation that there would be some kind of protest. Why haven't they materialized? I spoke to one, Iram Soto, who's a spokesman for Alliance San Diego here in the county, which works a lot with advocacy groups, and is philosophically opposed to both the wall and a lot of the immigration policy. And Iram said they weren't planning to do anything, and the reason for that was they see this as really just political theater, that because of what I alluded to earlier, the unlikelihood that this will be built. Anything substantial will be built, that this is sort of an exercise in, if not quite propaganda, just sort of game playing. And, he said, look, there are much more important issues. We're dealing with DACA, ICE domestic roundup operations, even the refugee issue and things like that, that to go down there and sort of, become part of what they think, I think, is a circus, and that's my word, not theirs. Really, there was no profit in it, so they're not interested in it. And I was out there, been out there almost every day, and we've had photographers out there. There's not a sign. There's not. I mean, I said earlier, there's not only no protests. I haven't even heard a mild objection out there.
Wow.
There's nothing. There's nobody out there. So, I don't. It doesn't mean there's a 30-day period of time. It might be at the end that there'll be more protests if there are any. It could come. Maybe it'll build up, but. First week has been very, very, very quiet.
Mm-hmm. Well, is there anything else you think our listeners need to know about this ongoing project?
I think it'll be interesting to see when it's all said and done, what they look like. It'll be kind of curious. I'm curious to see what the walls built of other materials look like, because the president has already said that a concrete wall probably isn't the way to go. The Border Patrol doesn't want a concrete wall because they want to be able to see through what's going on the other side. So that means I think the other materials things are kind of, at least at this point, the front runner. And it's interesting because one of the bidders there is a company from Maryland. I think it's called ELTA, which is a subsidiary of an Israeli defense contractor. And if you go to their website, everything they do are security systems that are based on technology. So they have sensors and cameras and lasers and all these, kind of digital types of things, sort of the virtual wall approach. And it'll be interesting to see what that actually looks like. Is it just going to be like stands with a camera on it, pointing at the dirt or something, or sensors or whatever? But, there's a lot of call for that if there is going to be any additional border security, that it be more technologically based rather than sort of, three-dimensional, that's a more efficient and a more secure way to go. I don't know if that's true or not, but so that'll be interesting. And then just to kind of see, I'm interested to see what a 30-foot tall, 30-foot long concrete wall looks like.
Yeah, don't
on
see
the
very
border.
many of those.
It's gonna be, I think the landing mat fence is what, and the secondary fence is what, 12 to 15 feet maybe. So these are going to be towering objects out there that you can probably see, if not from space, certainly from from Tijuana and parts of San Diego.
Yeah, well, Greg, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Refocus is a production of the San Diego Union-Tribune. This episode was produced by Lauren Flynn and myself, Daniel Wheaton. Special thanks to the reporters keeping us up to date on these topics. Keep an eye out for Refocus on your podcast feed, and while you're at it, subscribe to the San Diego Newsfix. And please rate and review us. For Refocus, I'm Daniel Wheaton.